I am an entrepreneur, following a dream, pursuing an opportunity, taking charge of my own destiny. I am bringing something of value to society, making a job for myself and for others, and creating wealth that benefits my family, my community, my country, my world. I am one of a movement of millions of entrepreneurs and innovators who made America great and who will keep our economy going and growing. I am what I am because many people have helped me along the way in this journey. Therefore, I will tell my story, sharing my successes and failures so that others taking the entrepreneurial path can learn. I will strive to mentor an aspiring entrepreneur. I will make my voice heard by those who make policy decisions that affect me and my business. I appreciate and celebrate my accomplishments and the accomplishments of all my fellow entrepreneurs. I will give back to the society that helped me to be successful. I will build a stronger America. Hello, my name is David Leopold, and the business world knows me as Small Biz David, and I am very honored and pleased to participate in this discussion today as we do our part in launching our effort in Global Entrepreneurship Week. Global Entrepreneurship Week was a concept that was actually started by the Kauffman Society about 10 years ago. This is the 10th year of it. I didn't participate in year one of it because I didn't know anything about it. Kauffman didn't do a huge marketing job on it, but basically they were just getting the event launched around the world. It was year two when I said, you know what, I want to participate in that week because that's what entrepreneurship means to me. And it was the second year of Global Entrepreneurship Week that I actually went to a website and took the pledge that I just read to you. I was one of the first 3,000 people around the world that took that pledge. And it's been a wonderful event, a wonderful week for me, the second week in November every year. And over the years, I've done quite a few different things. Matter of fact, the third year of the event, I actually went out to Kansas City, which is the home of the Kauffman Foundation, and I participated in the very first partners meeting. They have partners, as I said, around the world, and I participated in that meeting the third year of the event. And here's my my press credentials for the event. Scott, if you can do a kind of a zoom in on the logo that I'm pointing to, or I can put it closer to the camera. That is the international symbol, the international logo for Global Entrepreneurship Week. And as I said, it's the highlight of my year to be participating in this. It was about 4 years ago when I started doing an online presence for global. Oh, by the way, this year, and I really haven't seen any data. I'll probably see it tomorrow as the rest of the world gets going on Global Entrepreneurship Week. But there should be over 25,000 people, 25 million people participating in this event around the world. And there will be 40,000 different events like the one that we're doing right now. This is an event. where this is what I'm doing my part. And really the purpose of the week is to educate folks about about entrepreneurship and what it means. So I've taken I made the decision to involve in today's discussion an individual who I've never met him in person. We have probably had, what do you think, Scott, 500 online discussions?
Well, here, let me go ahead and join you.
There he is. Ladies and
So,
gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce Scott Scowcroft.
well, it's my honor to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
Scott lives in Seattle. I live in Cincinnati, Ohio, and as I said, we have never met each other in real life, as they say, IRL, but we have done many projects together. Scott's expertise is from the technology side of things, the technical production of things, and obviously my expertise is content and what we're actually talking about. So we made a pretty good team over the years, haven't we, Scott?
I think so. And you and I were pioneers, I would say, in terms of the latest wave of live video streaming. That was way back in what, 2000? This is 2013, 2014.
You're talking about Hangouts on Air.
It started off with Hangouts, you'll recall, and then Hangouts on Air. So you and I both precede the on-air part of the streaming video.
And it was Ray up in Montreal that had a noon meeting every week, and you were on the panel one week, and I was on the panel one week, and we struck a friendship on that panel. And as the years go on, as the time goes on, as every hour goes on, some new technology is being released, and you have taken upon yourself to embrace as much of that as possible when it involves video, because that's what you love, that's what your passion in the world. And I'll go into our formal discussion here, but I want to allude to another thing, that where our paths never crossed, but we were in the same industry.
Oh.
It was about 2005, 2006 that I was doing public access television, and I produced 65 shows on small business. And what years were you involved in public access television?
I was involved in public access television from 1982 to 1999.
Scott, what I'd like to do today, because the purpose of the week is to educate folks about entrepreneurship, I'd like to go back to the pledge and talk about the key words, and then ask you some questions and share what those words are and how important they are to you in your life. So I am an entrepreneur. When and why did you make the decision in your personal life that you wanted to become an entrepreneur and you wanted to develop a small business?
Yeah. Well, I brand myself as the reluctant entrepreneur who never looked back, because I've always enjoyed the idea of being part of a large organization that includes a lot of the safety net that's usually built into that. I think it was
paycheck,
healthcare, the infrastructure. So there was an office, all of the technology, human resources, bookkeeping.
I want to share a personal experience in my life that relates exactly to what you're saying. I have been a entrepreneur, small business owner for, this is my 46th year now, I think. And there were just 9 years of my life in the 90s where I was actually working with a large organization, and it was the number one organization in the world, actually, in what they did for a living, and I was very honored to be a part of that. But I wasn't one, and you know me well enough. I wasn't one and they had a very, very strong, pretty conservative corporate culture kind of thing, and I I didn't totally buy into it. I wasn't belligerent about it. I just kind of did my own thing. And you know what? They allowed me to do whatever I needed to do. They had expectations of me. And as long as I met and exceeded those expectations, they were okay at letting me do my own thing. And I like to say that it was because of they recognized that entrepreneur spirit that I had, and they allowed me just to do what I needed to do because I knew at the end of the day I would deliver to what they needed to get done. And so it was a real fine 9 years of my life. Believe it or not, I generated over $75 million of sales to that organization in those 9 years. So I delivered. I delivered, and they were very appreciative of what I did. But they allowed me to do my own thing. As a matter of fact, I was the first one of two people that were allowed to operate out of their home and not go into an office. And it was my third year with the organization that I actually went into an office because I thought it made sense for, like you said, to have those interactions that you have with people in the organization. But if you had to say today, are you following a dream that you've always had, and that's what drives you and motivates you today?
No, because if you were to say a dream, I did not have a dream of being an entrepreneur. I suppose it's a dream because when I was working in a marketing department for a small hospital and they needed to lay off 10% of the workforce, they always go to those people who are not patient-facing people, and so marketing people are oftentimes, and you're really not a good marketer unless you've been laid off once or twice anyway, right? Well, I was at a place in my life where I wanted to,
Is laid off the same as being fired?
one is merit based on the employee, the other is merit based on the employer, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Very good, Scott.
So anyway, I decided that I was in a position in my life to go ahead and try to do something that previously had been an anathema, and that was to become a freelancer. And the difference between freelancing in the 1970s or 80s and freelancing in the 2000s is, I think, a revolution. It's an entirely different game because of the internet and because of computers, especially after, in my opinion, after the big recession. Things are reorganizing, and people have the power to be able to take that narrow skill that they still have and be able to organize with partners around the world using the collaborative tools that the internet provides. Some call it the gig economy. Well, whatever it turns out to be, it's something that's very exciting. One of the advantages is that you can now pick who you want to work with yourself. You gather around a project, and you add to the larger team. Everyone works together. As soon as that project is finished, you dissipate and then you rejoin around a different project. Again, utilizing just those resources that are needed.
Why don't you share for a moment? And I have another thing I'd like to throw at you. Why don't you share for a moment a project that you are still involved in on a weekly basis?
There's a woman in Boulder, Colorado, who is a fantastic business consultant, and she's an inspirational speaker, and she has many different talents. And one of the things that, in terms of her outreach, is that she has a weekly interview program. Actually, it's twice weekly, called The Voice of Bold Business, and voiceofboldbusiness.com. She brings in some of the best consultants or business people or people who have interesting, important things to say from around the world, and is able to interview them one-on-one. Sometimes she has a panel of people who she facilitates that conversation, not unlike what you've done, David. And she has,
Over the years.
over the years, she has maybe 3 or 4 people who are assisting her in terms of the business, in terms of the marketing, in terms of scheduling, and in my case, in terms of doing a little bit of the video production and then the editing of these video programs, but then it's also uploaded as a podcast. That's a prime example of how just a small group of people under the leadership of an entrepreneur, and she is the definition of entrepreneurship, can band together on a particular project. And what she's in, the Voice of Bold Business is just one segment of a larger outreach that she has in terms of seminars and workshops and one-on-one coaching.
You said something that I want to reemphasize, and particularly for folks who have not started a business yet and are thinking about starting it. And God only knows we need many, many, many more businesses started. Technology has been the most important tool, if you will, that helps the small business person to get on a level playing field with folks who have large organizations. The only difference being those large, and it's a big difference, but those large organizations have pretty much unlimited resources, where the individual operating by themselves, there's, as we grow, there's limitations to the resources that we have access to. But technology has done wonders for the small business person. Well, I guess I would be remiss if I didn't thank you, Scott, during this discussion for being one of those individuals that I alluded to that have helped me along the way in my journey. And you said that it's really an important part of what happens in today's world, because once again, technology allows us to interact with folks anywhere in the world and to share ideas, help one another, et cetera, et cetera. One thing that I have stayed true with this pledge, talking about successes and failures, because, well, I don't like the word failure in that I don't believe that there is such a thing as failure. I believe that you might not be as successful as you wanted it to be, but that's not failure because you tried.
They say it's not the setback, it is how you respond to it. So if there was to be failure, it is that you try, you come up against a challenge, you get knocked down. We all get knocked down, and then you choose not to get up again. You choose to accept the setback as your fate, and then you go on to something else. Another way of looking at it would be every time that you try something, you learn something, and you can fine tune and adapt. And I know a lot more about myself today because I have, failed in so many different ways in the past. And each time,
you didn't fail. You weren't successful as you wanted to be.
What that told me is that I had to, at one level, broaden my scope, and then at the same time narrow it down to something where I could do something that no one else did, and what I do better than anyone else. And you and I were both on that journey, and it ended up being essentially taking interview programs, not unlike this one, being able to edit them so that the professional values were high, and then to chop them up into small pieces so that they could be shared socially.
And interesting enough, and we're going to end our discussion here in a moment, you just hit on a word that I wanted, a key word that I absolutely wanted to bring into today's discussion, and that is value. That's what business is all about, because if you don't bring value to the table, if you can't demonstrate that value to the person sitting across the table from yourself, you will not be able to be in business, period. You have to, there's a value proposition. You have to understand what it is, and you have to show that with another company investing in you to create a solution for them, it has to be of value. It's not just creating the solution, it's how you do it, how efficiently you do it, and it's a very important concept. And thank you for reminding me to talk about value.
Absolutely.
So let's we can end the discussion now. And Scott, thank you for your time in helping me work through the technology challenges that I have. Although you have been a motivator to me and I just might get back in business again. I've been inactive for the better part of a year and a half because of stuff going on in my life, and um, I think you are motivating me to get back into it. So thank you, Scott.
Well, you're certainly welcome, and the feeling is mutual. You were well on your way and full stride when I was first looking into the possibility of being an entrepreneur and being online. So it was a good opportunity for me when we crossed paths.
Let's share, Scott, too, your website for any folks that might be watching in the future and they want to get in contact with you. What's a good way to get in contact with you?
Sure, and it's an easy to remember website. At least I hope it's easy to remember, and it's just called thescotttreatment.com.
And I remember when you were developing the Scott treatment.
Yeah. Well,
okay. Well, thank you very much, and everybody. I hope you have a wonderful global entrepreneurship week. Take time to step back from what you're doing and share your successes and share your failures with other folks who want to become entrepreneurs and develop small businesses, because as I said earlier, we desperately need way more businesses getting started than are getting started right now. So if Scott and I can be a help to you and your efforts, give us a call and let us know.